From the thrilling pages of the DC comic,
Faster than a speeding bullet.
a myth is forged.
More powerful than a locomotive.
A hero takes flight.
Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. This amazing stranger from the planet Krypton, the Man of Steel. Superman.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the very first Superman Lives of 2017 and the first Superman Lives in a very long time. With me through Skype is Michael Kreitzer. How are you, Michael?
I am doing well. I'm very excited to kick this off again.
Yes, it's been too long, and I apologize to you, both you, Michael, and the listener. We have just been, busy, and life. Michael actually has legitimate excuses. I mean, he's writing books and things that are important. Me, a little bit on my part, but
You're just hanging out with family and stuff like that, right?
It's a burden, but somebody's got to do it. Yeah, well, it's we were talking about that before the show. Hopefully, that will calm down the 3 or 4 job situation that I've been in, and that would be great because it would mean we could do Superman Lives much more regularly.
Sounds great.
So, did you now see? Because we've been gone for so long. We missed Christmas, and I wanted to do a holiday-themed episode, and when would we have done it? So, did you get any cool super swag for Christmas?
The best super swag, and I know you probably didn't mean to set this up like that, but the best super swag I got was from you, actually. The comic issue of Superman and He-Man's, the Masters of the Universe. I forgot exactly what issue number it is, but the classic one with Skeletor putting some sort of spell on He-Man, on Superman rather, so he has to fight He-Man, and that was awesome because I'm such a Masters of the Universe fan as well. Just to have both of those fandoms come together in one issue like that's pretty golden. So thank you for that.
Well, you're very welcome. I knew instantly. I was like, I knew that issue, and I've read a scan of it. I've never seen the issue in person, and I thought this is the perfect Christmas present for Michael.
Absolutely.
I've got to get it for Michael, and he will appreciate it more than probably anybody else on Earth. So, and I wish DC, speaking of that, still had DC Comics Presents. Maybe that'll come back in, and The Brave and the Bold. I wish they would just bring both of those back so that we could have team-ups. And I also wish that maybe, who knows, maybe Masters of the Universe will be rebirthed as well. And we'll get rid. Did you read? I know you're a big Masters fan. Did you read any of those recent comics where they teamed up with the New 52 versions of the DCU?
I didn't on principle because I wasn't interested in anything New 52 related. I did enjoy the what was going on in the Masters Universe comic books, aside from New 52 though at the time for shortly there for a while. Yeah.
And they had like new looks, I think, right?
Yeah, slightly new looks, and I know that they have to. They're going. Well, they don't have to. They're just stubborn, and they're going to update, every now and then. But as long as it's not too, grossly misconstrued, I just kind of like, hold my nose and go for it.
Yeah, and as long as the stories are good and the characters are there, some of the updating you can kind of forgive. I mean, if anything, putting armor on these characters, more armor makes sense.
Exactly.
Whereas Superman never needed it.
Exactly.
Well, that's good to hear that at least they aren't doing wrong by that property.
Yeah.
And so we've got on this episode some huge news that we'll be talking about with Superman, which has come out this week. So it's a perfect time to be getting back to that. As for me on the Christmas front, I got a lot of Superman stuff. I didn't expect to, but my mother-in-law got me Superman plates. And because I'm a geek, only a geek understands this. Before I could tell my wife, we're not eating on these. I hope you don't expect to use them as plates. They're plastic plates, but they're blue with the S shield. She had already opened them and served dessert on them, and I just I looked at her and I went, why would you do that? And everybody else is looking at me going, because it's a plate. You eat on a plate. Yeah. Not technically this one necessarily. Yeah. But I also got like one of these big analog old style alarm clocks with the S shield, and then I got a Superman watch for my wife, who I had to tell her, buy this for me, please, and she did though. And then my sister-in-law got me the Gary Frank DC collectible Superman statue. Which,
oh wow!
Yeah, and it's a weird pose and it's kind of a weird sculpt, but it really in person looks so much better than the picture. So
that is cool.
Yeah, I didn't really ask for a lot of this stuff, so it was a really surprising Christmas as far as that went. So. Yeah, I've been wanting to ask you that, and I keep forgetting to ask. So we, by the way, folks, would love to hear your Super Christmas haul. If you had anything that you want to tell us about, let us know on our Facebook page, Superman Lives Podcast, and you can also let us know however you get this episode. And I am going to make a commitment in 2017 to be better about putting the show on YouTube, because I think our faithful listener, Ben Woods, and others have asked, when is it going to be on YouTube? And there's some reason, I don't know what I did wrong, but it's not coming up on, it's not available on iTunes either, but I don't know how to fix that. I barely knew how to do it when I put the big show on, so I'll try to figure that out if I can. So, but anyway, so that's kind of the latest. We are both, I think, committed to making this show more regular again,
Absolutely.
Like it used to be, and it may be every 2 weeks. We'll just kind of have to see. We've talked a little behind the scenes here. We've talked about maybe shortening the show by, instead of always talking about these 3 different segments like we usually do, we'll put a main segment and give it its own show. So we may not always talk about everything that's going on, say, with DCTV. We'll mention it, but it may not be as in-depth as it has been in the past. But Michael and I could both, A, talk to each other because we enjoy talking to each other, and then B, talking about Superman. I mean, we could go on 5 or 6 hours. And that's when they break the door down, and they, our families are like, are you alive? What's happening? So we have to have a cutoff at some point. But so what we're going to do, we are very excited in this episode to talk about Superman Reborn. Hesitantly excited, but I have a better feeling about it now. And of course, the new costume. So we're going to, we'll take a break, and when we get back, we are going to dive right into super news first with DCTV and movies.
Say, kids, what is it up in the sky? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Superman. Yes, sir, kids, a real flying Superman that can be yours. Looks just like Superman himself. He's made of tough blue plastic and has a bright red cape that fits on his shoulders. With your flying Superman, you get a powerful launcher to send him sky high, zooming through space just like Superman does in his adventures. Now, you'll want to be one of the first to have your own flying Superman, so listen carefully, because here's all you do to get yours. Send 1 box top from Kellogg's Corn Flakes and just 10 cents. That's 1 box top and just 10 cents to Flying Superman, Box 330, Battle Creek, Michigan. Or use the handy order blank right on the Kellogg's Corn Flakes package. Get your Flying Superman from Kellogg's now.
All right, so we're back. So, Michael, you and I both just have to confess to the listeners, we have been bad about our DC TV viewing.
A little behind, yeah. But in my defense, I'm actually, it's not just Supergirl that I'm trying to follow. I'm actually trying to follow all of the CW shows, which I've just recently learned that Constantine is now, I never caught that, and the whole first season's available on CW Seed. So my OCD fanboy has to go watch all, 13 or so of those episodes before I can justify catching up on the rest and give them all in order and at the same time. And it's a mess. It's really hard being OCD, but
I understand, but I'm right there with you. So that is part of the same universe? I didn't realize it.
Ever since Constantine came on to Arrow there and, helped bring Sarah Lance back, and they're also going to put an animated Constantine series up on CWC taking place in the same universe as well, just like they did with Vixen. So
okay. See, I missed the episode where he appeared because I have not really been faithful to Arrow since the end of season 3, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Once Ra's al Ghul popped up, I kind of said, okay, no. And then people, I read an article the other day that kind of lined up everything that I dislike about the show, and I really like the first maybe 2 seasons. I think they're really, really good. But it is what it is, and it's still far better than anything on the movie division side. So you haven't even gotten to the crossover you're saying, the big crossover.
I haven't. I wasn't actually going to admit to that.
I'm sorry,
but
we can
that's
take
okay.
it out later if we have to.
No, it's fine. Yeah, no, I haven't gotten to it yet. And, there's always that every time I talk to Big Al, our friend and my co-host on Iconic Cast,
Right.
because he's always up to date on all these things. And every time I mention, oh, no, I haven't seen that yet. Oh, I haven't seen that. He sends me one of those GIFs on the Messenger that says, shame, and like the nun walking around or something, because there's this geek shame, about not catching up and not having caught everything at the most up-to-date moment to join into the hubbub about it and stuff like that. But I just I like to savor things, and I like to make sure I get it all in and stuff. So
Right. Well, and I don't blame you at all. I'm the same way. I had to make cuts just to be able to catch what I do. But the days of sitting down with a family and watching Supergirl went out of our experience probably late October. So we haven't done that since then. And then I will make this to make you feel better about yours. I have only regularly, as they came out, read the super titles. And I am buying, let's see, Superman, Action, Supergirl. I'm also buying Batman, Justice League, Trinity, Green Arrow, Titans. I also read Titans when it comes out. So I have all those stacked up. Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps. All that's building up, and I have to go back and read it. And I'm buying it, one, because I'm OCD, but also, two, because I really want to, but I'll find time to read those Superman issues, and then it's like, when do I read the other? So that's on my list as well, catch up on those, because I've been reading about what's going on in those, and they all sound phenomenal. Same with the television. I did catch a little bit. I watched part 1 and 2, maybe, of the crossover, and I'm not impressed with Legends. Now, I haven't ever watched the show, and of course, what really bothered me the most was seeing Supergirl stand next to Brandon Routh. It made me want to cry.
Oh yeah,
because every time I see him, and I paused it, and my wife was watching, and I said, "Just look at that guy. Who does he look like?" Well, he looks like Superman. Yes. And then she said, "Did he ever play Superman?" I said, "I'm going to pretend you didn't ask that question." But she didn't recognize him because she hasn't seen him in anything since Superman Returns.
Yeah,
and
sure.
He's gotten bigger and older, and even more like Superman. So that just makes me sad. I just paused it for a while, and I looked at that, and I tried to imagine I was putting the Superman uniform on him, and then realized just how sad that was, and I went back to watching the show. But so
I actually, I'm far from caught up on them all, but Legends of Tomorrow is actually, and I know I'm in a minority with this. I know so many people are gonna, think, what am I saying? But Legends of Tomorrow, I think, is actually my favorite show in that universe right now.
Really?
We can talk more about it when we actually get to that. But yeah, I know I'm weird like that. So.
Well, no, yeah, go ahead. Why is it? Because I have not given it a chance beyond when it first started. I think I watched an episode.
Yeah, well, again, I'm only about midway through the first season, which was abbreviated season anyway. Right. But I think I know that I can see as a first season that it's kind of fine figuring out what it wants to be, because new shows do that. But I think that there's this common theme in all the CW shows about the heroes kind of coming together as a team, coming together as sort of a family. And that's just this theme that the producers like to go for. And it's a wonderful theme. It's great. But I think that that theme works best in a setting like Legends, where you have a crew. They're a team on a ship, and they're going to all these new environments where they have to, coalesce as a team all the more, and it just really works with that setting. Whereas something like Arrow, for example, it's fun to have Team Arrow, but at the same time, the Green Arrow version that they're doing anyway is almost at his best when he's the dark loner guy or whatever, right. And the Flash is wonderful. I love the team they have on the Flash, but at the same time, it's the fastest man alive, and I don't want to see all 5 other speedsters with him who can do the same thing he can do. Yes. It's just a little slightly different like that. I don't know, but maybe that's just me and my taste. But Brandon Routh's a big part of it as well too. I do really love his performance on that, and it is harking back to lots of Superman qualities for me.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't it just make you just wish you could go back in time and say, Brandon Routh, hang on, don't be Ray Palmer, which he's really more Ted Kord. As we know, he was supposed to be Ted Kord. Just hold on, because they're going to eventually want... Yeah, for some reason, he was going to be Blue Beetle, which would have been perfect, because armor and...
oh, yeah, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, and then, of course, guess who? I think they had a conflict with the movies at the time, who said, no, we might want to do something with Blue Beetle, so we're going to make him awesome. He's going to be a gym rat. At night, he's going to put on the armor and beat up criminals and maybe break some necks. I think that... I don't know, but I remember reading the reason that he is so much... like Blue Beetle is because they wanted to use him, and then the movie divisions had some kind of thing tied up with him, which thankfully has not come to pass. So they made him Ray Palmer, which eventually I think worked. But if I could just go back in time, wait, because they're going to do Superman, and you need to be Superman again. Because if he could have been, they would have gone.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, because it fits their whole MO on that show of, look, here's Helen Slater, look, here's Dean Cain, and that's their, here's John Wesley Shipp as Jay Garrick. I mean, Barry's dad. So I agree about The Flash, and I have been a little more caught up with that show, and I wonder, why does everybody have to could we just focus on The Flash, and can he stop rebooting the timeline? I mean, come on. It's just it's at this point it's become funny, and in the crossover they're going to touch on that more, and kind of everybody's like, I can't believe you went back and changed the timeline. He already feels bad about it, obviously. Just can we move on, please? So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but there's not. I mean, so because of that, I haven't kept up with any news. Is there anything kind of earth-shattering that's coming down the pike that we might know?
I'm in the same boat with you. I'm trying to avoid spoilers, so I haven't really checked out a lot of the news and stuff coming up with that kind of stuff. So I see an advertisement every now and then, and I know, of course, they've got the Legion of Doom on Legends of Tomorrow now, which seems all kinds of fun. At least they're Legions of Doom by name anyway. They've got various supervillains throughout the universe have come together or whatnot. So that seems kind of a nice, fun throwback.
Right, definitely. Yeah, I didn't know that. I need to, like you're doing, watch the first season of that show. It's just, when would I do it? But yeah, I need to, because I like all the characters in it. Yeah,
and there's a nice what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of a I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, meta element or whatever, but to the Atom, the idea that he is that Ted Core-like personality, that sort of self-effacing. I mean, he's not insecure, he's confident, but he's very kind and charming and everything you think a Clark Kent type should be.
Right.
But his power is by going small. And there's a great symbolism in that, by making yourself smaller, that's when you're stronger. That kind of putting yourself, others before you or whatever, I just think there's a lot that can be pulled from that, I think, symbolically, but maybe that's just the English professor in me.
No, I think that it's a great theme of humility and yeah, we need more of that. That kind of idea in our heroes. I mean, that's what the stories really should be about. Not everybody can have powers. And so here you have a guy who really doesn't, but he has the ability to do this, and his power is to become small. It's kind of like the Flash. For so long, he can just run fast. We can do a lot more than that. It's about who he is. And in the same way, he can do more when he turns small than most of these characters sometimes can do large. So yeah, it's a great character. I just really would have, anybody else but him in that role. So that he could have been free. I'll let that go one day when I discover a cosmic treadmill and I can go to another universe where he's still Superman in the movies too.
Yes, please.
Well, that would be, that's another one that we've already done our bit on that. If, by the way, a little plug for that, our discussion of Superman Returns last year, the 10th anniversary, go back and check it out if you haven't listened to it. Really great stuff, and it was mainly just me letting Michael talk because what he does in the analysis is beautiful stuff, and and I just kind of agreed with it. And we had we liked different things for different reasons, and so go check that episode out. So in a completely different part of the multiverse that none of us would want to visit because we would be killed by a falling building or a bomb that is some kind of urine. I don't know what it would be. I should say, without giving this too much time, I did it, Michael. I finally, because I made the commitment, and I mentioned this on the big show.
I heard that on the big show. I was shocked.
I said I'll never pay directly for this, but since it was on, I will watch it. And I couldn't even sit and watch the whole thing. I had to break it up. I had to record it and then watch it in pieces. It is as bad, if not worse, than I had imagined it could be. And somebody recently on a message board said, there had to be some redeeming traits. And so I said, I'll be fair. There are a few. None of them have to do with the movie itself. They're kind of happy accidents. And I said, usually if they're good, anything good about this movie, it's because it's ripping something off that's really good. So when Batman goes in to save Martha, he That scene is tremendous until he kills a guy with like he's got some kind of grapnel that can catch a giant, 300-400 pound crate and throw it through the air. Never knew Batman could do that. What is that on the belt? The bat crate moving device. It's right next to the bat shark repellent. He throws the crate and it smashes this guy. And I thought this was interesting because I had seen this scene on YouTube. And it smashes the guy against the wall, and when the bad guy slumps down, there's a blood trail on the wall. I'm watching it on HBO, no blood trail. Now, was maybe the scene I saw on YouTube from the extended edition, we're going to put more blood because that'll be closer to, or
probably
did they go back and say we should take the blood out because people really... I don't know. So that's giving him too much credit. It's probably the other. But it's awful. And, it does have some really cool ideas in there. I think it's neat how they use Superman's, the ship. It's not really Superman, but, the ship from Man of Steel that's still lying around. Somehow they use that to grow Doomsday. I mean, there were a lot of ways that could have been used with Zod to where if the ship was around, you could have just put him in a pod. I mean, there's so many when people say there was nothing he could have done but killed Zod. Well, this movie proves that there was because the ship was still around. It has its moments, but they're few and far between, and they certainly don't in any way. I hate to use this very crude analogy, but you've all heard the analogy about, excrement. You might find something in excrement. I don't know, like maybe your dog eats a wedding ring or something. Well, it's in there, and it's the wedding ring, and you're going to get it out, but it's still the rest of it excrement. That was a horrible analogy, and I apologize.
It was accurate.
It was accurate, though. That's it limped, but it was still good. This is I bring this all up because Ben Affleck put this as producer, because of course he's a producer. He said there will be a shift in tone and sag in storytelling in Justice League. It's a little bit lighter. The characters are a little bit more comfortable in themselves, so they can express a wider array of emotions, which means they'll express emotions other than anger and looking constipated. And there are just more people in it, so it's more fun. Sure, that makes more is always better. It's all of these different characters bumping up against each other, and the team dynamic offers a lot of dramatic possibility. What's interesting is he talks about Batman. He says it's... He talks about this Batman solo movie that he's supposed to make, which he keeps saying is not a sure thing. I think that's very interesting. But he said here, Batman is different in Justice League. I think the most profound difference is that I'm playing the part at an older age than those guys were when they played it, and it's about a guy who's had a long life of this experience rather than someone who's just setting out on the journey to become this guy. I wonder if maybe there could be a middle where we aren't always seeing him become Batman. He's already been Batman for a while. Oh, wait, Batman 1989 did that. So,
exactly.
That was on HBO the other day, too. And I thought, and I just couldn't look away. I love the movie so much. And, gets it right. So that's the latest on the movie front. We are supposed to believe that they are going to somehow make a complete tonal shift.
Well, the thing is, they can say that all they want, and of course they're going to say that because they're the producers and whatnot, and they realize that how much they've hurt themselves with the first two films. But they're continuing with what they've already created, and they're working with a director who knows how to do nothing but that, and they're working with the writer, the Chris Terrio, or however you pronounce the last name, who already wrote the Justice League movie by the time Batman v Superman had come out. So they can bring other writers in and try to put lipstick all over the pig, as they say. But I actually did a video about it in the to keep with excrement analogies. I said, imagine if you and your friends are going to your favorite ice cream store because you're big ice cream fans, and you ask for a bowl of chocolate ice cream, but they give you a bowl of dog excrement, and you're outraged. I'm not going to deal with this. This is not what we wanted. This is take this back. So they take it out and they dump the excrement out in the same bowl and then put some ice cream back in the bowl and hand it to you. And one of your friends gets all excited and jumps up and down and says, "Yay! It's ice cream now. Now we have our ice cream." And you're looking at it and saying, I still see the smears on the side. It's the same bowl. You're not going to get. This is ridiculous to get excited about this. It's the same bowl.
That's a beautiful analogy. That's perfect. Yeah, and even the ice cream that is Jeff Johns, I don't think is enough to get us to forget about what was just in the bowl, or that the bowl is still there. It's the same bowl. Yeah,
exactly.
I wish, I will say this. I've been thinking about it since I watched the movie, and I thought about it. Okay, if he can't do, and I don't know if he can or not, if Jeff Johns can't do the rebirth story, which would be very complicated for the movie-going audience, because you would have to introduce Dr. Manhattan, etc., there's only one way built into the movie as it exists that I could see them doing a complete change and actually fix everything. And that would be that when Superman dies, we have the great scene hearkening back to the death of Superman, Adventures 500, where he meets his dad, Jonathan Kent's spirit. But he meets him, and then he turns it's not really Jonathan Kent. It is, in fact, Metron, because we already know that Darkseid is coming, blah, 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 from the horrible, just terribly dropped into the middle of Batfleck v. Not So Superman, the Darkseid scene. So you have Metron, and he explains he's one of the new gods, and that this Earth, this universe, has been weakened because it's Superman had to be weakened, everybody had to be weakened because Darkseid fears them, and so he did that by changing his past and changing their universe. And
that's a good idea.
And so basically Superman becomes the only guy who knows the truth, and he gets his memories back from Metron of how things are supposed to be. And so that's kind of like Rebirth, but not involving Dr. Manhattan. So when he comes back to life, Superman becomes the guy that will restore the things that should be, and which is hope and optimism, and the true timeline reasserts itself. And you can use that to make a bunch of different changes stylistically. That would be the only way that they can come up with, I think, because anything else is not going to be enough. It's not gonna,
that's a really great idea. I hadn't thought of that.
That's the only way that they can go, since they brought in the new gods, by bringing in the references to Darkseid. And that was the other thing that I thought was kind of cool. I don't like any of the scene other than the parademons looked like parademons from the comics. And I thought, man, they look really creepy, like I've kind of expected them to look in real life. That's pretty neat. The rest of it, of course, crap. So you have Fat Fleck, Fat Man, Batman, jumping around cracking necks in the scene. But then you have these really great-looking parademons. So I thought, man, because they've got the goggles and everything. So that would be the only way. So whether that's going to happen, that would change a lot of things, but I doubt very seriously. Who knows? I'm not going to certainly see the movie. I'm sure once the spoilers come out, we'll find out. But that's the latest on the movie front, and we really aren't up to date on the TV front, so we're gonna probably just leave it there. Oh, there is this bad news. For some reason, David Goyer is still working for Warner Brothers. He's teaming up with Jeff Johns to do a Green Lantern Corps movie. And I just read another article today that said it's going to be Lethal Weapon in space, which is a great way to approach it and how it should be approached. David Goyer means it's going to suck, though. I mean, let's just be... Now, is Jeff Johns going to balance him out? They work together on JSA. Is it possible that... But why is he still there? Like you said, Michael, who does he have pictures of? And what are they doing in those pictures that he's still there?
Exactly. No, even on sites where fans are like, really ardent fans of Zack Snyder's movie universe here, are even themselves are saying, what is David Goyer still doing there? Which is kind of shocking. I'd made the comment. I was like, what compromising pictures does he have of executives that makes him still get jobs there? It's insane. I don't know. But just, I've learned not to, and I think even DC Cinematic Universe fans are now learning too not to get too excited or too concerned or whatever every time they announce something, because they've announced so much that they're not even going to remotely do now.
Correct. Yeah, the
Cyborg movie.
Right. Yeah, this may never come to pass. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I have a feeling if they did a Cyborg movie, it would be like Max Steel, which I think was in movies for about 20 minutes. And then, and probably would be better than their Cyborg movie, but I think it would be received the same way. So, well, that's what we have as far as television and movie news, and hopefully we'll have better TV news. We'll get better between now and the next time we do an episode. But you guys can go and find that info as well. It's out there to find. So we're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to dive into the real heart, because I know Michael and I are probably both on the same page. All this other stuff's great, but the comics are where it's at. That's our first.
Absolutely.
It's always been our first love. So we're going to dive into that next.
Superheroes are modern day mythology. Well, so what? Just how do Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man operate in the way of Heracles, Vishnu, or Odin? And why is that important? Tune into Iconicast and join 3 school teachers and lifelong geeks as we research, review, and discuss the iconic influence these characters have on our culture. Subscribe on iTunes or sign up for the notifications at iconicastpodcast.com. That's iconicastpodcast.com. Stay iconic.
All right, we're back. So I have, first of all, I guess we need to rewind a bit because it's been a while. So as we've said on this show since we started, the Rebirth titles have been tremendous. There have been some weak points. Nothing can be perfect, but the fact that it even exists is just really startling to me. And so we've seen some great stuff. What I guess we can do, Michael, is maybe just very vague, not vaguely, but I mean, we don't have time to go back through all the issues we've read since we did the last episode. I think we can kind of just maybe talk about some of the big arcs that we're seeing. First of all, this Godslayer stuff is kind of feels like filler until we get to Superman Reborn. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is kind of cool, but it really does seem like it's they're trying to space it out. It seems like every issue we get is just another bunch of scenes of them having the same argument. You know,
right.
Lex and Superman and the Godslayer, they're arguing about is it right to judge somebody based on future actions, you know, or whatever. And it just we've had that argument like 5 times in the last issue. Can we just get on to some more action in this one? And you know, maybe they change scenery for that one issue, but then they have the same argument again, and you're waiting for a little bit more traction out of the next one. So yeah, it does feel like they're biding time for something.
Right, and I love. Though, despite that, I love the fact that it's a very Silver Agey idea. Look, we have to get Superman and Lex Luthor working together, and they have to be together and like each other. And hey, look, Superman is even having to defend Lex Luthor. And then at the end of the last issue of Action, Superman had to loses his powers briefly, and Lex is defending him. So the Silver Age concept of it, like seeing Superman with this big, you know, futuristic-looking axe and an executioner's hood with Lex Luthor was such. When I saw that cover, I thought that is really great. That really just is something you could go back to 1967 and see, you know, or even in the Bronze Age, some kind of kooky idea. So I love that, and I love they're off Earth, and I love that they're, you know, kind of doing some sci-fi stuff. I just think that I think they know the real meat of where they're going, that they have to get to before they can really move Superman forward in the Rebirth universe is going to be Superman Reborn. So, however, at the same time, I find that the issues of Superman have been great. I mean, they don't feel like filler as much. What did you feel about the I think maybe we did talk about the Super Sons crossover the last time. So then I guess that leaves us with the multiversity issue first. Multiplicity. How'd you feel about that one?
Yeah, well, you know, you mentioned how, you know, Action Comics seemed a little Silver Agey. I was going to say the same thing about the Superman title because it's just great. I mean, you know, the Superboys thing was that you had that element too, and I liked Batman and him having that camaraderie, and now with this multiplicity, and you know, I tend to shy away from stories where it's hey, here are 1,000 other versions of the main character, you know, because like I mentioned with the Flash thing, I like the uniqueness of heroes. I like the fact that they're the only ones that can, you know, and every now and then it's neat to have a story where a villain can mirror their abilities so you can see what truly is in their heart that makes them a hero. It's not just what they can do, but just in general, I think that should be done sparingly. So usually when we do find stories about, you know, hey, here are 1,000 other versions of you that can do the exact same thing you can do, it's just always so hard to maintain any kind of special or unique nature of their main character. But this has done that. I mean, I didn't mind at all seeing all these other versions because they're different enough. I mean, you know, the first one you run into, of course, is from the Superman Red Sun, you know, so it's, you know, communist Superman is a little bit different than, you know, our Superman. And then you get the Superman, the black man who's the president, you know, of I forgot which Earth that number that is and everything, but because I don't do numbers, but yeah, so I mean, all of the different versions I think are quite different enough to make it still very fun and very interesting. And I was glad that our Superman tagged along and wants to help resolve this. It looks like a lot of fun, so I'm on board.
Yes, definitely. I was blown away by it. I love that Ivan Rice, however we pronounce his name, I love that he was involved in the art on this issue. Not that I don't like Pat Gleason or Doug. And the other day I heard his name pronounced in a video, but man, I can't remember how it's supposed to be pronounced. But I love their art too. But I mean, Ivan his stuff's tremendous. So it was great seeing that. I also like the idea that they came to. We know this is the original Earth, that it's been altered, but they came looking for Superman. The New 52 Superman's dead, so they went for the Super Man, the Chinese Superman, and this Superman they see as an anomaly. And I thought that was very interesting. And so they're seeding all of these ideas that we're building up to not only Superman Reborn, but I think as a whole Rebirth. Any idea who this villain is who's collecting Superman? Because it's a great idea.
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe somebody from the Watchmen is what I'm guessing, because that would maybe build up to Reborn nicely.
Right. Yeah, it could very well be. And it was. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, interesting. You were saying how they think this Superman's an anomaly. We also got a little bit of something like that from Superwoman when Lena Luthor's like the big baddie in that, but she looks at the new Clark Kent, the new powerless Clark Kent that's shown up on the scene, and calls him the same thing, an anomaly. You're something different. So there is that. They're building something across the titles with that idea. Right,
and I'm wondering about him because it changes my own personal theory, which I think is pretty much out of the water. But did you see the solicitation art for Superman Reborn? There is one cover that has Clark Kent, and he's opening his shirt. And this is this mystery Clark Kent, not the real guy. He's opening his shirt, and he's got the bloody S shield. I don't know if you noticed that. And
no.
So it looks like the one from The Death of Superman, but it also kind of makes me wonder if he is Superboy Prime. Or is he Superboy Prime, perhaps, because Superboy Prime had the carved S on his chest, after Infinite Crisis. I don't know, but yeah, he's an anomaly too. That's interesting. So he's got these memories that we're told, this machine that Superman had in his fortress tells him that, yeah, this guy's telling the truth, but obviously we know it can't be true. So where is this all going? We don't know, but it is, I think, some of the most exciting stuff that has happened not only in Superman, but in DC in a long time, to where I read those first because I'm, okay, well, what's the next part of the mystery? And at first it really frustrated me because I remember when Rebirth started and you and I were talking about those first issues, I thought, okay, let's just figure out who all these people are. But it's so exciting now to say, okay, well, what part will be revealed today? And so I can't wait for that to happen and just to see what's going on, which brings us to the solicitations. You know what, though? Before we do that, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we'll dive right in to the Superman Reborn solicitations. Hi, folks. My name's Chris Moe. I put the Chris Moe in a mostly weekly podcast called The Big Show with Chris Moe. The Big Show is a unique blend of late-night comedy stylings, the latest geek and pop culture news and commentary, movie, TV, and comic book reviews, and more. You can find The Big Show at thebigshow.com, show spelled SHEAUX, on iTunes by simply typing in SHEAUX, on Facebook at facebook.com/The Big Show, Twitter at Big Show, and Big Show video spelled VIDEAUX, on YouTube. Please tune in and be sure to share The Big Show with Chris Moe with people you know. All right, we're back. Superman 18, and this is what we're looking at. Superman Reborn Part 1. In Rebirth, the enigmatic Mr. Oz told this Superman, "You and your family are not what you believe you are. Neither was the fallen Superman." Now, in the first Rebirth crossover between Superman and Action, the shocking truth behind Oz's words is revealed. It begins with one of Oz's prisoners escaping and ends in a tragic moment for Lois and Superman. And it's that is, on that cover, we see the prisoners that have been, I guess, taken. We see a picture of a number of villains, but then we also see the Clark Kent, and he's got the bleeding S shield. So I'm not going to read all these solicits, but I wanted to get to that because so obviously things are going to come to a head, or at least we thought we were going to find out who Mr. Oz really is, right? And it looks like it's going to be going into that. Mr. Oz is on the second cover. He's bandaged, which I think is interesting. You see that his leg is bandaged there. That's interesting. And then we get to I guess it's Superman number 19. In the penultimate chapter, of this tale, the life of Superman's son hangs in the balance, and the Man of Steel faces the truth about his life. Now, we know nothing's going to happen to John because he's about to co-star in Super Sons in, I think, February. So that's kind of like, what kind of drama is there really there? This cover, though, is very interesting because the prevailing theory on some message boards that I've visited is that this other Superman, the New 52 Superman, is in fact Superman Red from the original Superman ... Reborn ! From back in 1996. And you and I briefly talked about that. I remember I sent you the solicitation info. So the theory is, I think, strengthened by this idea that on the cover for Superman 19, you see the pre-Flashpoint Superman, the real guy, and he has blue energy around him. And then you see the New 52 Superman on the cover as well, and he's got red energy, and their capes, they're standing or they're flying next to each other, and their capes are kind of one. So it's interesting. It suggests they are the same guy, and we find out that Action 976, as this epic tale wraps up, Superman's life has drastically changed, and that's all we're saying for now, except that you don't want to miss it. So that is a little different than these solicits, and I don't want to read all of these. This is from Action 977, which the cover came out for this, 2 days ago perhaps, where, have you seen this cover, Michael, with, it's by one of the Kuberts?
I don't think so. Maybe once you describe it out. I looked briefly at the solicits, but I didn't read through them as you are because I wasn't wanting to get a spoiler or not. Right.
Yeah, it reveals on there, which I guess it is kind of a spoiler, but we knew it was going to happen. It's our Superman, and he's Clark Kent again. So he's taking off his glasses, and he's pulling open the shirt, and he's wearing a suit and a tie. And then behind him, there are other images of his life, and it's kind of showing you. I'm going to send you this image so you can take a look at it and give me your thoughts on it. It's very interesting because it leads to a new theory that I've seen pop up, and that is that this other Superman might be the Sand Superman, which I have never even considered. But on this Kubert cover for Action 977, we see Clark Kent running to the reader, opening his shirt, smiling, which is wonderful. And then one of the scenes from his life, we see the birth of Jonathan Kent Jr., I guess we have to call him at some point. And then we see in the upper right-hand corner Superman breaking the kryptonite chains, but he's not wearing he's not wearing the classic uniform. He's wearing the Rebirth uniform. So I don't know what it all means, but now we know from these solicits that there will be an aftermath of Superman Reborn. Following the epic struggle, why can't I read today? The epic struggle against Redacted, Superman examines his entire history, the birth of John, the marriage of Lois and Clark, their lives of the Daily Planet, to discover who tried to destroy his life, who is waiting in the shadows, who is Mr. Oz. So he's, and then it says he can't answer these questions alone. He's going to unite the entire Superman family. So that's interesting because apparently we're not going to find out who Mr. Oz is in Reborn. We're going to have to wait until April to find that out. We also know from these solicits that Superman gets a new uniform. And this uniform brings back the red boots. And as Michael and I were talking about before, apparently when Wonder Woman took off her old New 52 uniform, she took the choker that she wore, and Superman found it and decided to turn it into his belt. Because it's what it looks like to me. And I actually don't mind it because, let's be clear, it should be the trunks. But if you haven't seen this new uniform, we can describe it. It's, first of all, the stupid gauntlet, Man of Steel looking things are gone.
Amen to that. Yeah, that was great to see.
Yeah, it looks like the red boots. They're kind of metallic for some bizarre reason. And then there's this belt that is, what's cool about it is that it's the shape of the M. So it kind of repeats the pattern that's on the top of the boots, which I've always thought was genius. You've got the S shield for Super and then the boots, man. And then it adds a little gold buckle in the peak, the lower, the valley, I guess, of the M. I don't care for it because it's not the trunks. But what I'm hoping is that it's going to lead to the return of the classic uniform. What do you think, Michael?
I hope so too, and I don't know if it's just silly and naive of us to hope that, but it is great to see all of the other little elements fall right into place, except for those trunks. And I know there's always going to be the I try to be nice about it, but the ignorant basically, because they're it's not just a fanboy geeky reason to want the Trunks. There are absolute valid reasons aesthetically and symbolically for them. But you're always going to have those people. I don't like them. I like whatever. But I think that maybe I'm being too naive here again, but I think that the tide of popular opinion among Superman fans anyway, because if you're reading this Superman, you're a classic Superman fan. Right. This is not the angst-ridden New 52 guy anymore. So I think that the bulk of those fans do want the Trunks back, and it's that's what I've been seeing here and there online. Of course, I haven't been going to certain message boards that I know would say otherwise, but I even put out a video last summer on the YouTube, on the Iconicast YouTube channel, one of the Professor Geek videos, just talking about why the Trunks matter, and I went into all the differences and the reasons behind color psychology and the historic symbolic reasons and stuff. And I haven't touched that video. That was out last summer, and all of a sudden this week I'm getting view after view and comment after comment going, yeah, that's right, and well, I didn't do anything to publicize this video or anything. I think people are just looking into it and searching on the issue now, so that's good to see, good to hear.
Absolutely. And it's so frustrating because I will go, it was a comment section in one of these comic news sites that had picked up the story about the new uniform, and I read this one guy, and I wished that I could have had you on with me. This was, I don't know what time of the day it was, but I thought, he's probably doing something right now. I don't want to bother him, but I wanted you to get on with me and just log in and go at this guy, because he said they are the Trunks. They're stupid. They're not iconic. That really, boy, I wanted to throw my phone across the room. They're not iconic. They're not classic. They're just stupid, and they're never coming back. And oh God, it made me so mad. And I took a few deep breaths, and I imagined that this guy was, transported to the Snyderverse, and that part of the Daily Planet building fell on him, and I felt better. But I am just so bad. I'm a horrible person. But I just think it's a small group of people who are dumb enough to criticize it. I think for most people, even the general audience, if you show them a picture, they say, well, yeah, that's Superman. And they probably don't go, oh, those look like underwear, or they're not underwear, for one thing. But this guy even went so far as to say they're not Trunks. He said, well, no, they're not Trunks, they're underwear. And even if they were Trunks, they're still stupid. And I think that maybe DC or the WB is paying people to go write this kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I agree with you completely. I think there is an embracing of the rebirth Superman, and I think a lot of people, and I know on Superman homepage.com, which I don't go there that often anymore because I really my heart rate goes up. But some of the comments even there were very positive, and some saying, I hope this new suit leads to the return of the Trunks in Action 1000. And I haven't done the counting, but we know Rebirth is 2 years, and I wonder if we'll be at Action 1000 in 2018.
Oh yeah,
so maybe
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Maybe it's all tied. And the reason I wonder that too is because Trinity number 8, so the solicit came out for that as well. All the solicits come out on Tuesday. Trinity 8, though, which I've read the first issue of, and is a great book. If you're not reading it, you need to check it out. It's a Superman Reborn Aftermath tie-in, and it's an essential chapter. Kal-El reveals to Batman and Wonder Woman what has happened to him and how they all may be in danger. So what I see there is something that you and I had talked about this a long time ago, and I theorized it, that maybe Superman is the focal target of Dr. Manhattan, or whoever is behind. Maybe it is Ozymandias, we don't know. But he may very well be the focus, and by destroying Superman, ruining him, everything else is ruined in the process. So if that's the case, then he is going to kind of be like Wally, who remembers the past, and we need to talk about that Titans issue as well. He is, as soon as Superman is fixed, quote unquote, then the DC universe will be fixed. So maybe by the time 1000 gets here, he's back in the classic uniform, and the DCU that we love is back with a few new 52 changes that we just have to accept are going to be there, like 2 Wally Wests,
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to be around all that long either, to be quite honest. So I don't know. By the way, let's go back a little bit. Titans, this recent issue. Did you read it?
I did, yeah.
What did you think
Flash
about that?
and Superman. That was great. A lot of touching scenes there. I've been waiting for that. I think we talked about it before too. What about when this, our classic Superman meets the Wally? Because these are two characters that have their memories and know about the previous, and of course right now Superman's thinking that he's from a different Earth, but Wally West is perceiving it as just a different timeline. They got screwed up. So it's neat to have that, interaction there.
Right. And I got to tell you, I had a rough week, and I know that our friend Sierra did as well. And I told her, I asked her on Facebook, did you read this issue yet? The pep talk that he gives to Wally just made my week. It really was a pick-me-up, because that was such a Superman moment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, here's Wally saying, I lost Linda. It doesn't look like I'm going to ever get her back, and the past is gone. And Superman saying, you just outraced Superman. I think you can do anything. And he was just so positive and upbeat and encouraging, and yet a normal guy. And he's like, let's race. And it was great that here's the real Superman, which we've already had back, but here he is with somebody who remembers him, and here he is giving advice like this and being encouraging. It was just, it just made me very happy to see that. It gives me hope that we are going to be moving back, hopefully, to that, and maybe with it will come the classic uniform.
Yeah. I didn't think about this until some of the things you were just saying there, but there was a somewhat similar meeting a few issues ago of Nightwing in the Nightwing comic, where Superman came in to meet this Dick Grayson, and he asked him for help or something. I forgot the details, but Dick, Nightwing was basically saying, why, what, this and that, and Superman said, of all the new versions of people I've met on this earth, you're the one that's the most like good old Dick from my verse. Happy-go-lucky, cracking jokes and stuff, and they had just a great rapport the whole issue. And then in the end, Superman mentions how, in my world, you settled in Bloodhaven, and that's once you struck out on your own, that's where you went. And then of course the very next issue is Nightwing Bloodhaven. It's like he's going there, so it kind of it's Superman setting those pieces back into place, even just by being that positive influence and having the advice for people and stuff.
Wow, that's great. So that answers a question that I know we did talk about, and I guess I didn't think about it until you said it. I know we both wondered, okay, if Superman and Wally meet and they both remember the pre-Flashpoint timeline, what's going to happen when Superman, and we know that all the Titans now remember it, or I guess kind of do remember it. So why didn't he? I wonder why he didn't remember Superman. I mean,
they didn't really touch a lot onto that. I think they're probably kind of trying to precariously hold things together until whatever big reveals they've got planned. But yeah, they didn't say too much about that.
Yeah, and it could be that I don't know, maybe there are powers working behind the scenes that are not allowing these people to remember too much at the time, or who knows. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. There is also another Superman Reborn Aftermath that we're getting in April, and this is Supergirl. Superman and Supergirl meet again for the first time to face the evil of the Emerald Empress, who we know is playing a part in the Justice League versus Suicide Squad, which I haven't read yet, but I have it. Plus, what does it mean for the Girl of Tomorrow when tomorrow promises a dark night? So Batgirl is there. Shocking revelations. All-powerful sorceresses from the future, the Batgirl of Burnside and Dinner in the Wild West. They're all here in this amazing issue. So they meet again for the first time. Now, I don't know, has he met? I don't think he's met her yet.
No, and I keep waiting for that to happen in the Supergirl comic, so it's good to know that that's coming.
Yeah. And so she is essentially still Kara. So I'm wondering if those shocking revelations are going to be him telling her, hey, you need to know who you really are,
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. And then all of this kind of tied together, and there's a great article on Comic Book Resources, which is rare because it's Comic Book Resources, but they have a great article that gets into all of the Rebirth, I guess, Watchmen crossover tie-ins, however you want to look at it. And they point out that, I'm forgetting where I was going with that. Hang on for a second. It's going to come back to me. They point out something that I missed because I haven't read these issues yet. So it's kind of a minor spoiler. But apparently in Justice League versus Suicide Squad, Batman and Commissioner Gordon and some other people are in Arkham, and they've taken from Rebirth, the one shot, they've taken the blonde girl who we believe, a Saturn girl, and they've brought her to Arkham. Because she was rambling about the future, and she breathes on the cell, the glass in front of her cell, and she draws the Legion logo as they're walking behind, and we see Gordon see it and kind of stop and look at it. So it seems as if the Legion is going to be coming back as well.
That's great.
We don't know what the summer event's going to be, but this kind of gives me a little bit of pause that Scott Snyder is behind it. It's going to be a Batman-centric event, but it does involve the entire DC universe. There's a shocker. It would have Batman at the forefront. And that it's going to be drawn by Greg Capullo, who, not the biggest fan. But I wonder if this will continue on any of the Rebirth story, because we also know that's coming in April. This was just revealed that Batman is going to team up with Barry to investigate the Button from DC Rebirth.
Oh, good. I'm glad that's coming back. That's good.
And instead of them just doing a limited series and making you buy the extra issues, they're going to be in there. It's going to be a Batman Flash crossover. So I think that is a really cool way to do it. So it looks like, folks, we are moving as we go through Rebirth. We are, I think, centrally moving towards the restoration of what should be, and it looks like Superman's right at the center, which is where he belongs, because he is the DC universe. And without him, literally and figuratively, you don't have the DC universe. You don't have comic books, but we're talking about the DCU. And the cover for that Trinity issue I mentioned has Mr. Oz, and he looks like Nicolas Cage for some reason. You see more of his face. If he's Nicolas Cage, it explains everything. He's mad that he didn't get to play Superman for Tim Burton. And but he's got the Trinity flying towards him in this image, and then there's an S shield exploding, and it looks like a planet. And so it seems to suggest that whoever he is, whoever's working behind the scenes, has targeted Superman, because if you deconstruct Superman, you deconstruct everything else. And we've said that for a very long time. So it's wonderful. It's just like a dream, and it's a wonderful dream.
It really is
to be seeing this.
A lot of my friends are saying, "Man, it feels so good to be excited about DC Comics again."
Yes, it does.
One comic thing I just wanted to is related to Superman. I wanted to see if you've read it yet, because I haven't. But apparently in January, so it's a limited just kind of standalone series about Supergirl. I forgot the exact title of it, but it's a prestige format, one of those, and it's just sort of a standalone tale of her youth or coming of age on Earth, coming to grips with her powers and stuff like that on Earth. And it's so it's not set. I mean, it's Supergirl, but it's not really set to any one continuity. But I think the first issue came out either early this month or late last month. I wasn't able to grab it, so I need to order a back issue on Amazon, but I do want to follow it and see what it's like. Had you heard about that at all? I
have seen it, and there was an interview with the writer on one of the sites, Newsarama maybe, and I read it. It seemed interesting. I was kind of thrown by the premise, which was that in this universe, or this take on Supergirl, she doesn't remember her past. So she's discovering her powers, she's not sure. She doesn't know. It's kind of like almost she's got amnesia, from what I understand, and doesn't remember. So that's an interesting way to go. It's horrible of me. We were at the comic shop, and my youngest daughter, who loves Supergirl because she's Supergirl, and then my oldest is redhead, so she's Batgirl. Camille said, "Oh, a new Supergirl book." And I didn't get it for her because I had just bought her something else, and I felt bad. I was like, should I have bought it? But I didn't know. I hadn't vetted it yet, and I don't like to let them read anything if I don't know if it's appropriate.
That's true.
And since it is this kind of limited thing, kind of like American Alien, I don't know if it's appropriate. I don't know if it's getting into any kind of teenage issues, and the art is beautiful, and I don't know the writer at all, but I think it's great. I mean, I think we definitely need a bigger focus on Supergirl, although it's kind of bizarre. We're bringing Supergirl back in the comics into line with how she should be, plus the show, and then now we're going to do this. I don't know. It's weird, but it's also not a bad thing. I just think we could definitely use more. It's amazing. I've been reading some comments. I don't know if you've seen these. People have been criticizing on Bleeding Cool. They've criticized DC Rebirth for not having enough diversity. Look at how many.
Seriously?
Yeah. And I'm like, what Rebirth are you talking about? You've got Supergirl, Superwoman. You've got Batgirl, Batwoman. You've got any kind of human being and experience that they have is being represented right now in DC Comics.
Yeah.
What
you
more?
got Cassandra Cain back as a she's called Orphan now instead of Batgirl, but she's still, her she was Eurasian, I believe. Cassandra Cain. Yeah. And you got Blue Beetle and the new Wally. I mean, yeah, there's a ton of diversity now. I mean, maybe not as much as somebody or this person or that person may want still, but I think it's the most we've ever had. Wouldn't you say so? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know what it was such a weird comment, but I thought DC right now is probably doing far better at including everybody. Now, they're not Marvel, but I mean, we even do have, and that's not a compliment, by the way, that they're not Marvel. It is a compliment, but it's not a compliment for Marvel. I mean, we've even got, what's his name? Simon, the guy that's a Green Lantern.
Oh, that's right. Simon Baz.
Yeah, I think he's a Muslim American. So
what is.
Other diversity do we need? I don't know where the reference was going, but there were a number of people agreeing with it. And I thought, well, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. But Marvel, and I know this is a Superman podcast, Marvel just keeps retracting. It's doing the opposite of what DC is doing. I just don't understand it anymore.
There are some gems. I don't know if you saw that one, and I know it's a Superman podcast, but this is kind of related to Superman because it felt like a Superman-like moment. But they finally brought back Richard Rider, the original Nova. And I've enjoyed the Sam Alexander, the young kid, the new Nova that came about. But Richard Rider had such a special place in my heart, the original Nova. And I haven't read the issue yet. I just bought it. It's the second issue of his return. But he's meeting the new group of young champions, and part of the group of young champions, so it's Miss Marvel is now Kamala Khan, not Carol Danvers, and he's kind of learning all the new changes that have happened. And then the young Cyclops, who of course is the Cyclops in that continuity or whatever, went on to be a super villain. So this is young Cyclops brought into the future from the past.
Right.
And he explains who he is. He's like, well, the older me went on to be a supervillain, so I'm the young me brought into the past now to still be a hero. And Richard Rider looks at him and says, I hate everything about that sentence.
That's great.
It's like, how do we all feel about that? That's great. A lot of that DC related too. That's great.
That's very wonderfully meta comment there. Yes, because I also see criticism of the Superman titles right now, saying this is the Superman titles and what they've done in Rebirth is the most confusing thing going on in comics. And when I saw that, I thought, except for the X-Men, go try to explain the X-Men and why there are like 6 spider characters, and it's ridiculous, and why none of the characters at Marvel are who they are. I mean, and if they are, they're Nazis. Yeah, no, I don't see how the whole thing with the young X-Men. Those are my favorite versions of the X-Men, the original 5. It's just it's really an abomination what they've done with them. And I'm not even talking about, the fact that they're from the past, but just that they couldn't find a way to turn these characters around. It was always, what's the next stunt we can do? We killed Jean Grey again. Let's put Cyclops with Emma, and let's have him go bad, and let's have him die again. And the Phoenix Force, it's just kind of like, I don't know what needs to happen at Marvel, but anyway, we are a Superman podcast, but we do have to talk about what's going on across the street there. So any closing thoughts on Superman Reborn, and any theories or any ideas, anything else you want to...
I'm not really good at the theorizing. I really like the stuff you were saying, and guessing. I hope that comes to pass. It's just such a great ride. I just encourage people, if you haven't gotten into it yet, it can get pricey following all these different titles, but at least follow Superman. At least follow the Superman title, if not the action title as well, or the others are quite good too. Even the Superman family issues. It's a lot of fun. I mean, experience the fun of following comic books again if you haven't already. I know some of our listeners might just be sort of still sticking to the back issues or whatever, and that's fine. But man, pick up Tomasi's Superman at the very least. You will not be disappointed. No, you're missing out if you're not. I mean, I think action has been weaker at times, but it's Jurgens, and the art is fantastic, and when they work together, it's really great. I think both titles
have their strengths, but they're feeding each other more now. We're kind of seeing more of that as we lead to Reborn. Which I do have one question for you. What would you think, because the prevailing theory, again, is that this 20-year-old storyline, this is the 20th anniversary of the original Superman Reborn, where, for those who maybe aren't familiar with Superman Blue, Superman became an energy being, which is not as bad a story as people want to tell you it is. And it's got some real head-scratching moments, but it's not that bad. He is then split into two, and it was a takeoff on the original amazing story of Superman Red and Superman Blue. The theory I've read is that this guy is Superman Red, and the reason Superman was so kind of mopey in after Infinite Crisis was because he didn't have that part of him back. So the reason Grounded happened was because that part of him that was determined and maybe stronger-willed wasn't there. And so now that he's back, he became the New 52 Superman, and they're going to merge, so their histories will merge. Would that at all bother you, knowing that somehow this guy who is, to us, the real Superman would now share the memories of the New 52 Superman?
Yeah, it depends on how they do it. Yes, that just how you're saying that does bother me a lot, because I don't want anything to do with that New 52 Superman in my classic Superman as I have him now. But I do understand from a marketing, perspective, how they might think that, hey, that's a great way to keep all of the fans that they had gained, and or whatever, because they're the few people who like the New 52 Superman or whatever, and that was the only one they liked. But if they played it out really well, there are ways that they could just say that in the solicit, like, hey, now that the histories will merge or whatever, but then in the actual rubber meets road of the story, just stick to the classic Superman continuity. I would be okay with that. But yeah, it has the potential of going awry a little bit. So I'm trying not to think about that too much, honestly. What about you?
Well, I don't. As a theory, it's an interesting one, but I kind of don't think that's going to play out, because it seems to me some kind of reset, harder than we've seen, is going to have to happen between now and the end of Rebirth. So why would you keep that much of New 52 history intact if you're going to erase it anyway later? And I don't think it's going to be a full erasure of the last 5 years, but I have a feeling there's going to be. I don't think Superman Reborn is the final change we're going to see for Superman. So I just kind of have to wonder why they would even keep any reference there. I think another theory that's out there is that he's going to come back, the New 52 Superman and the New 52 Lois, which the Superman Red theory doesn't explain her, and it also really doesn't explain why they both turned to dust when they died, right? And the whole energy thing. It kind of explains the energy thing. But what I'm wondering is, and one of the theories is that they're going to get their lives back and they're going to go off to somewhere else in the multiverse. Maybe there's also a theory they're from somewhere else in the multiverse. So I don't know. The images don't seem to suggest that. I hope we don't see a merger, because I just think it's kind of icky and weird. Because I mean, just between him and Wonder Woman alone, and oh hey, I'm married to Lois, but we used to be a thing. Part of me was, at least, it's just
It's kind of like merging a Democrat and a Republican.
Yeah.
It just doesn't quite,
doesn't
how can you
work.
conceive of that?
No. And the outcome is, not pretty. So I would hope they wouldn't. It would invite more questions than it would answer at this point.
Yeah.
And so I really hope they don't go that route. But, the good faith they've restored gives me hope that, no, they're not going to do that. That would be really dumb, but we don't know yet. So... Well, all right, kids, we're going to take a break, and when we get back, we'll wrap up this episode of Superman Lives. And we're back. So, any shout-outs, anything for us here at the end, Michael?
Just keep putting the bug in people's ear about my book coming out in the summer now, the book on the inspiration that we can draw from superheroes, a very superhero story. Superman certainly leads us off as the first chapter in the book. So, I'm working on edits with the publisher, and we're still looking at... what do they say? Late May, early June, I think, is the release date. So I'll more details to come as I get them.
Absolutely, looking forward to that. That's going to be tremendous. And we have talked on this show before about the possibility of going to the Superman celebration in June. So those of you that might be doing that as well, you might get to meet us. I know it's going to be big if you do get to meet us. It'll be exciting. But see, Michael will have something cool, a book he wrote that he can sign for you, whereas I'll be able to tell you about my digital podcast. It's like old people when you tell them you do a podcast, they look at you and they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like you can't show me a podcast. So they think it has no value. Like my parents are like, so. You
can sign the book too as a Superman Lives host.
Well, I guess I could do that. You're right, but I don't want to, steal your thunder, my friend. It's well deserved.
There's lots of thunder to go around.
Well, I appreciate it. See, you are such a giving and generous individual. If I had any fame at all, would hoard it. I would. No, I wouldn't. I'm kidding. I would be a tyrant of ego. I really wouldn't, probably. But. So, yeah, that might be something, kids, and Michael and I are going to talk about that. I don't know. We both have stuff going on, but we're hoping that we can make that trip because that would be great. One, because we'd get to meet in person, but also because it's a Superman celebration. I've always wanted to go. And, next Iconicast, is that coming up soon?
Yeah. I think we might have just waited too long for a January episode. I think we're looking at a big Valentine's Day episode. So in the beginning of February, putting out something big for that.
Fantastic. That'll be great. On my end, we're plugging on with a big show with Chris Moe in 2017. Going to have some changes. I think it's going to be similar, but there'll be some. It's going to be shorter for one. I think I'm going to just kind of eventually tell myself there's only so much I can do in one show. So, and then you, of course, need to come back on the big show. So we need to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Love to have you back on. And I think it would be great to maybe have some crossover. That would be cool if we did a crossover of all of our shows. What if we did that? Where
we got to plan an event. That sounds great.
Yeah, where we had part one happened on Iconicast, and then it went to maybe Big Show, and then it went to Superman Lives, or however we did it. That sounds great. That would be great. That is a great idea. All right, well, and not because it's kind of always been there. I don't know why we didn't think about it before.
Yeah, that's weird. I like it though. That's perfect.
Well, folks, thank you so much for your support, and we really do appreciate it, the kind words, and please share our show. It's very easy to do. Superman Lives Podcast on Facebook. We do have an email, supermanlivespodcast@gmail.com, and we are going to eventually probably have a site either for Superman Lives, or we're still looking at the possibility of having a network of our shows together. So I think 2017 will be the year we bring that to fruition. So more to come on that. We hope. Fingers crossed. So, well, thank you so much, Michael, and everybody else. And remember to, and I forgot what we even say here. We never did figure out, or we did.
No. I think one time we said "Long live Superman." The other time we just simply said "Superman lives." So all of that.
All of that, then, yes. And also with your spirit, et cum spiritu tuo, as we used to say in the old days in the Catholic Church, yes. So, all right, guys, we'll see you on the flip side. Superman Lives can be found on YouTube, iTunes, the Superman Podcast Network at supermanpodcastnetwork.com, and on the podcast's Facebook page, Superman Lives Podcast. Send feedback, suggestions, and questions to hosts Chris Moe and Michael Kreitzer at supermanlivespodcast@gmail.com. All music featured in the Superman Lives broadcast is the intellectual property of Warner Brothers. Superman and all related characters are the intellectual property of DC Comics, a division of DC Entertainment. Superman Lives is intended solely for the purpose of entertainment and does not in any way profit from its production or content. Superman Lives is a production of Big Show Studios and Iconic Superman on Facebook.